I just want to have as much oil in the system as possible. And we don't even know if Iran gets that money. Frankly, I think it's very hard for them to get it. But you have ships that are out there that are loaded up with oil. Rather than keep it there, I would rather see it go to the system.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be looking at the Strait of Hormuz crisis as of late March 2026. As of right now, the world's single most critical energy artery has effectively been slammed shut, and I want to get into the numbers. 97%, that's the collapse in commercial tanker traffic flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. One of the busiest highways on the entire planet just went silent overnight. And this graphic really represents what's happening very well. In February 2026, we were seeing 138 commercial vessels cross the strait every single day. We are now down to 2 per day. Why? Well, one of the main reasons is insurance. Much like you insure your car or your home, these are very expensive vessels to also come with insurance, and they're at all-time highs. And that paralysis brings us to the very core idea of the economic clock of war. So what does that mean? It means the length of this conflict isn't just about military moves anymore. It's now directly tied to how long the global economy can hold its breath, how long it can tolerate this lack of energy before the costs become completely unbearable. At the very heart of this crisis, you've got a math problem that you just cannot solve. The first number you really need to wrap your head around is this: 21 million barrels. That's how many barrels of oil and other liquids were flowing through that narrow waterway every single day. To put that into perspective, that's about a fifth of what the entire planet uses daily. And I often hear, why can't they just transport all of it by land? Check out this graphic. Iraq, Qatar, and Kuwait are all 100% seaborne dependent to get their oil and gas out of the country. Saudi and the UAE have a pipeline, but it can only carry a fraction of their typical output that they'd otherwise transport by sea. Oman is effectively the only oil-producing country in the Gulf which doesn't need the strait to transport its oil. And here's the thing, this isn't just an oil story. There's a parallel shock happening in the natural gas market. A staggering 20% of all global LNG also has to pass through the strait. And unlike oil, which has a few limited workarounds as we mentioned before, for LNG there are no bypass options. Zero. None. It either gets through Hormuz or it doesn't get out at all. In this chart right here, it just lays the whole problem out plain as day. On the left, you've got the 21 million barrels of oil a day that are now trapped. And on the right, that's the absolute best case scenario for rerouting it through pipelines, a maximum of maybe 5.5 million barrels a day. That leaves this massive gap, a chasm of at least 15 million barrels a day that we just cannot replace. But this went way beyond blocking just some ships. This crisis took a much darker turn, escalating into what sources are calling a decapitation strike. A strategic attack hitting the very heart of the energy supply system, designed to cause damage that's going to last for years. It all kicked off on February 28th with military strikes that trigger an immediate de facto blockade by Iran. Just a couple of days later, Qatar had to suspend all of its LNG production. And then fast forward to mid-March, traffic is down 97%. And then the final blow, direct missile attacks on Qatar's massive Ras Laffan facility. And this is the really crucial part. The damage isn't just bad, it's very long-term. Catastrophically long-term, some sources have called it. 2 of Qatar's LNG trains, which are these huge complex facilities that prepare the gas for shipping, were hit very hard. The single act knocked out 17% of the country's entire export capacity. And the estimated repair time, we're not talking weeks or even months here. We're talking 3 to 5 years. This is a structural hole blown into the global gas market. So all of this leads to a really important point. Not everyone is feeling this pain equally. The physical absence of all this energy isn't hitting the world the same way. One region in particular is feeling the immediate brutal shock of this. So take a look at this chart. It maps out vulnerability perfectly. A staggering 80% of all the energy coming through the Hormuz was heading to Asia. The economic powerhouses, China, India, Japan, South Korea, their entire industrial model was built on the assumption that this flow would never stop. Well, that reality just got shattered. And what happens when you have this kind of physical shortage? Well, it's literally broken the global oil market in two, and we're seeing this great price decoupling. You've got Brent crude over here, which shows the global risk, but when you look at Dubai crude, the key benchmark for Asia, and it's gone through the roof to almost $170 a barrel. Even Oman, which isn't impacted quite as bad as the other GCC countries, has seen its crude rise to $150 a barrel. It's not one big global market anymore. It's a desperate regional scramble for actual physical molecules. It's got so bad that one refining source has just come out and said it. The Dubai and Oman benchmarks are broken. This isn't about Wall Street traders or market sentiment anymore. This is about the real world, about a desperate scramble for actual physical barrels of oil that Asian buyers simply cannot get their hands on no matter the price. It is not simply paper anymore. And this brings us to our final and maybe most critical point. Even if by some miracle the Strait were reopen tomorrow, the energy system itself is now carrying deep, long-lasting scars, and those scars are going to affect the market for years to come. And you're probably thinking, okay, once this fighting is over, once it stops, why not just turn the taps back on, right? Seems simple enough, but the reality is so much more complicated and, quite frankly, dangerous. It is not like flipping a light switch. See, with nowhere to put the oil, producers had to shut down their wells completely. For a lot of the older oil fields, a sudden stop like that can actually cause permanent damage way down in the reservoir. Restarting them becomes a slow, super delicate process that can take weeks, even months, just to get production back to where it was without breaking fragile, expensive equipment. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? What does the crises of 2026 really teach us? It's this. The whole idea of just-in-time energy security, this model built on the fragile assumption of open sea lanes and totally safe infrastructure, that era is done. It's over.